So I stumbled upon this interesting article on warspot.ru, warspot.ru, which is a big military history and technology blog in Russia. Uh, I've already done a video on my high-capacity Makarov, EJ-70. My video was based mainly on English language sources. But this is I found this article called "The Forgotten Brothers of Makarov" by Ruslan Guk, dated 10 August 2021. This article is about the commercial Makarovs produced in Russia. And pretty interesting seeing it from this side. So I figured I would read it. It says, the first Makarov EJ pistols. And from here on out, I'm going to refer to them as EJ pistols just for the civilian model and PM for the military model. The emergence of a new civilian role for the PM military pistol took place in the early 90s. The first technical specifications, TU 3-3.2201-91 for the EJ-70 sports pistol, were registered at the very beginning of 1991. The sports pistol PM was intended for export only and was not available to Soviet citizens. Trade in such weapons was carried out by the foreign trade company Baikal, which was created in 1989 as a department of the, let's see here, I'm going to put it back to Russian, Ijevskого Mekhanichevskого Zavoda, which is the Ijevsk Mechanical Factory, known also as Izhmech. The first EJ pistols were absolutely no different from combat PMs and had the same marking system. In fact, the USSR sold ordinary combat pistols abroad under the guise of sports pistols. This was possible thanks to the lower-powered Makarov cartridge, which in most Western countries was not banned for circulation among civilian weapons. The first contract for the supply of EJ-70 pistols involved the production of 120,000 products at a price of $63 apiece. Already in December 1991, the first 25,000 pistols went to the capital of Finland. May I remind you that December 91 marked the end of the Soviet Union. It's when it all collapsed. The second batch of EJ pistols arrived in Estonia in January 1992 in the amount of 7,200 pieces instead of the 15,000 documented. Moreover, even in this batch, customs officers were missing 14 pistols, and earlier, when sending from Izhevsk, one box with 30 products disappeared. On top of that, upon inspection, it turned out that the first EJ pistols are absolutely no different from combat PMs and had the barrel with the military 4 grooves instead of the 6 grooves required for the civilian market. Despite the not entirely smooth start, from 1992 to 1995, EJ pistols flowed like a river to the west, mainly the USA. In addition to the standard EJ-70 model, pistols with an adjustable rear sight and a high-capacity magazine of 10 or 12 rounds were added, as well as a variant chambered for the 9x17mm cartridge, which is more common abroad, and in Europe is known as 9mm quartz, in America 380 ACP. The designation system of the EJ line changed 3 times. First, it was called the EJ-70-01 and EJ-70-02. Then it changed to the EJ-70-100, the EJ-70-200, and the EJ-70-300. And finally, they settled upon EJ-70-17 for the 380 models and EJ-70-18 for the 9mm Makarov models. And here we have a picture. In the middle, we have the standard IJ 70-18A with the adjustable rear sight. This was a very common model sold in the United States, and it is flanked by two models that were not sold in America. Here we have the IJ 71, which is a fixed sight version of this pistol. And it sports a very proud Baikal mark on it. And on this one we have the original IJ 70-70-01, which appears to be entirely a military model, just with different markings. It is also interesting that the 9x18mm sports cartridge for the IJ 70 pistol appeared only in 1993. Their production was organized at the Tula cartridge plant under the American brand B West. It was later replaced by the Russian TPZ. The civilian cartridge for the PM in the IJ 70 had a bullet with a lead core, and this was identical to the original 9x18mm Makarov that had been introduced with the PM in 1951. Later it had been changed to a steel core. At the same time, for example, Poland began producing such cartridges for military weapons earlier than others, eventually abandoning the production of cartridges with a steel core bullet. In addition to Poland, cartridges available to the civilian market at the time could be produced by Bulgaria and Yugoslavia. PM under Parabellum. Over time, restrictions on the import of weapons introduced in the United States led to the fact that this raging river of IJ 70 pistols gradually dried up. The family of PM pistols chambered for 9x17 became the service IJ 71. I'm not sure if it'll go into this later, but the IJ 71 pistol, which again is this pistol with the original fixed sight on the military Makarov, that is actually a common weapon amongst security forces, private security guards in Russia. Because in Russia, weapons chambered in military cartridges are heavily regulated. So they use the 380 models for private security. That's just my aside there. And the export line of pistols chambered for the Makarov cartridge is now called the Baikal 442. However, in the history of the early IJ pistols, there was another interesting page under the sign of Parabellum. The unusual thing about this combination of PM pistol and 9x19 cartridge is that for weapons with a fixed barrel, low power cartridges of 9x17 and 9x18mm are sufficient. For reliable operation of the more powerful 9x19mm cartridge, most gunsmiths will use recoil with short or long barrel stroke with a semi-blowback. This article was originally written in Russian and auto-translated by Google. That's a very awkward way of saying that for 9x19 or 9mm Luger cartridges, we use a recoil-operated locked breech in the West. Therefore, pistols chambering for the Parabellum cartridge with a fixed barrel are extremely rare. In modern Russian weapons history, one can remember, for example, Stechkin's OC-27 and Serdyukov's 6P35. I'm not familiar with either of these pistols, but apparently they exist. And here we have the 9mm Parabellum IJ 70-19, which has a heavier slide than the 380 and 9x18mm model. Looks like it may be based off the slide of the original PMM, which was the original double-stack Makarov, which was intended to fire a more powerful, high-pressure version of the 9x18. The PM pistol chambered for 9x19, which was developed in 1993 by P. Ivshin, was initially designated IJ 700-400. It was based on the PMM pistol, which was designed for the high impulse 9x18mm 7 in 16. Well, I guess I was right. Cartridge. In the mid-90s, a small batch of such pistols was produced under the designation IJ 70-19A and Baikal 442. The appearance of the Parabellum IJ coincided with the beginning of the decline of the export career of the IJ 70 family. For some time, the 9x19mm version of the Baikal 442 was present in IJmech advertising catalogs, but by the early 2000s it finally disappeared from official sources. PM for practitioners. In the 90s, in the depth of the Tula CK IBSSOO, which was a design board, an unusual version of the PM pistol with an increased length and weight of the bolt appeared. Slide, it should be in English. An additional 18mm long muzzle brake was necessary for the pistol to fire the high impulse 7 in 16 cartridge. This modernization of the PM made it possible to convert standard weapons to a new promising cartridge, the firing of which was prohibited in the original version of the PM. In addition, such a simple modification gave the new OC-35 pistol high accuracy rates when conducting high-speed shooting. However, the fashion for practical shooting in law enforcement agencies would come later, and the Tula pistol will remain unclaimed. Oh, so that's what's OC. And there we have it. Basically, it's a Makarov with a big old muzzle brake. In the early 2000s, practical shooters in Russia experienced an acute shortage of small arms to perform exercises in various disciplines. In the pistol category, it was decided to make a special sports modification based on the IJ 71. Weapon tuning was carried out in Tula by the CKIBSOO under the leadership of A.B. Adolf, who designed the OC-35 pistol. From his previous development, he borrowed the design of the muzzle compensator. The pistol also received a push-button magazine release, an enlarged slide stop lever, an ergonomic handle, trigger and trigger guard, a magazine, and a wide neck for its reception. Basically a magwell. At the bottom of the frame, there was a bracket for installing a collimator sight. So in just over a month, at the beginning of 2005, a full-fledged sports Makarov for practical shooting appeared. Wait for it. Old. The IPSC Makarov, based on the IJ 71 pistol. Never thought you'd see an open gun built on a Makarov, did you? Neither did I. Next we have the non-lethal PM. This is actually a fairly important topic in Russia, but it is probably pretty obscure here in America. The history of the appearance of the first non-lethal Makarov, which was known in the 90s as the 6P42, still remains vague. Today, gas PMs are produced as MP79, which was known as the IJ 79 a little bit earlier. But at the initial stage of the designation of the pistol included the GRAU index. Few people pay attention to this fact in its history. At the same time, the assignment of such an index was preceded by certain research and development work, after which a pilot batch of weapons was produced for comprehensive testing in the interest of the Ministry of Defense. A little earlier than the non-lethal PM, gas versions of the MCMK, which was known as the 6P36, and PSM, that's that really thin pistol that was originally meant for general officers, That's called the 6P37 pistols appeared. Experimental batches of such weapons date back to 1992 and 1993. Even earlier, non-lethal PSMG and MCMKG were developed in the interests of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the MVD. For such weapons, 7.62 millimeter gas cartridges, TK024, also known as 7 in 11, and blank TK023, which is 7X8 cartridges appeared. These samples, like the 6P42, were originally intended to arm law enforcement agencies, but for some reason, in 1993, the entire line of Izhevsk gas pistols became available to the general public. After this, for a short time, the GRAU 6P42 classification was used in the designation of weapons with the addition of a cartridge caliber 7.62, 8, or 9 millimeter. Kind of awkwardly written, but here we have the 6P42 or the IJ-79. It's a gas pistol. You see it uses these little cartridges which fire like a little ball containing pepper gas, if I'm not mistaken. In Russia, they're also called traumatic pistols. Russians are more or less banned from owning pistols, so for a long time, this was probably your best bet for a concealed carry weapon over there. Though I think since then, even those gas pistols have become pretty heavily regulated. The first 6P42 pistols were converted from Makarov's by inserting a special liner with a pin into the barrel for use with the 7.62 millimeter gas cartridge. The cartridges themselves were made on the basis of the cartridge case blank of the PSM 7N7 cartridge. Such pistols were easily transformed back into combat PMs. After this, a separator and a bushing additionally appeared in the 6P42 barrel, which did not save the civilian version of the Makarov from a criminal fate. This year, which presumably is 2021, at the Mil-X exhibition in Minsk, a rather original development was presented for converting a combat Makarov into a non-lethal version, while maintaining the ability to fire with a live cartridge. To do this, before firing, a special attachment with a detachable spherical metal tip is put on the slide, which catches the bullet and turns it into a striking element with low specific energy. As it turned out, such a development has long been patented in the United States and appeared as a response to the increased number of fatal cases for the use of service weapons by American police officers. This version of the humanitarian Makarov pistol may make it possible to fire the first non-lethal shot against an aggressive, unarmed criminal, thereby saving his life. So here we have it. You have this rather questionable looking attachment made of plastic and basically a big ball there, and it catches a bullet and launches it. Allegedly that's been patented in the United States, though I'm not aware of any. I've never seen anything like that being used. It may be patented, but I doubt it's been used very much. And in general, it just looks like an unsafe, terrible idea to me. But that's just me. Smart gun. Another interesting but forgotten modification of the Makarov from the early 2000s is the MP447 pistol. This version of the Makarov is also known by the abbreviation PIVO, which stands for Pistol with Weapon Owner Identification, which in Russian would be Pistolet s identifikatsiей владельца оружия. My Russian is not very good, unfortunately. I apologize. The idea of such a weapon was that firing a pistol was only possible with a special ring that would be put on the shooter's middle finger. The ring had a special electronic device that interacted with the pistol frame through direct contact. In this version, the MP447 was conditionally safe if the owner lost the pistol, and in the event of an unexpected possession of the weapon, the pistol was absolutely safe for both the owner and others. Such a design did exist in the United States as well. You have it, the special ring that is required to fire the pistol. The development of the PM Smart Pistol at Izhevsk took place from 1998 to 2001 under the leadership of S.V. Gulyaeva, so female engineer. However, it was not appreciated. However, official sources point to the serial production of the MP447 as a premium weapon. Even today, not only in Russia but also in the world, the time for smart gadgets in the field of small arms has not yet arrived. An example of this is the recent Izhevsk development of the MP155 Ultima smart gun, which has not yet found its consumer. Today, it is still difficult to imagine even a pistol as an everyday personal smart device, but certain functions of weapons and manipulations with them may well become elements of highly intelligent systems. So there you have it. This article did touch on the EJ-70 pistols, though it didn't really talk about their use within Russia very much. There's another article I may read to you later. I realize, A, it's not translated the best, and B, I'm not the best reader. But hopefully you found it interesting and informative. And have a good night.